Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to show you how I make pumpkin puree, freeze dry it, powder it, and then turn that powder into yummy pumpkin cheesecake bars. I'll break this video down into chapters in the description in case you want to jump to a specific part of the video. Here I'm preparing my large turkey roaster pan with some parchment so that the pumpkins don't stick to the pan. The pumpkin varieties I'm working with today are Jarradale, which are the gray ones, and Cinderella. I grew these on my homestead this year. These gray ones actually turned out to be really hard to cut open. I actually even at one point got out my electric turkey carving knife and tried that, but that was an epic fail, so I went back to the regular knife. Here I'm just putting them face down in the roasting pan, and they're going to go into the oven like that. Baking them at 400 for about an hour. These Cinderella pumpkins turned out to be way easier to cut open, and they weren't as heavy, and they were definitely not as dense. A lot more watery when I was blending up the puree. And at this point I realized this project was going to take me all day just roasting, so I put one of the halves in my toaster oven. The first set coming out of the oven, testing them for doneness with a knife. If I were to do this again, I would bake them a little bit longer than an hour next time, because with those Jarradale ones, I wasn't able to get all the flesh. It's like it didn't cook all the way through to the rind, so a lot of it just ended up not getting used. The Cinderella ones, though, they took less time to bake because they're so watery. So first I went with my Vitamix to blend things up, which worked fine for the Cinderella pumpkins, again, because they're so watery. Here we are with the Jarradale, much harder to scoop out, much thicker. And I quickly realized that this blender, even with the tamper thing, wasn't gonna cut it. It was just really hard. I ended up pouring some water in, which is counterintuitive because when I freeze dry this, I'm looking to remove the water, but it was the only way I could get this mixed up. parchment I put on just because sometimes things can expand in the freeze dryer. Um, so I wanted to make sure, so if you put a layer of parchment over the top, that will help. If it does expand, it won't be quite as big of a mess to clean up in your freeze dryer shelves. And here I've decided the Vitamix was no good, and also I decided to mix both types of pumpkin in one container because the advantage of the watery one would help thin out the thicker one, and use my immersion blender instead, and this was definitely the way to go. Here I have my kitchen scale under the tray because there is a weight limit per tray, and I should have looked this up before I did this video, but I'm blanking out right now. I think it's for the large freeze dryer, which is what I have. I think you want to limit it to 3 pounds per tray. So that's why I decided to put the scale under and just make sure I didn't go any higher than that on the remaining trays. Alright, so I ended up with 5 large freeze dryer trays of pumpkin puree, and then 1 additional tray with 2 bags for a future run in the freeze dryer. So I'm going to let these freeze overnight, and then tomorrow I will put them in the freeze dryer. Alright, so it is now Monday. I put my pumpkin trays in here in the freeze dryer on Saturday, and they've been running ever since. The machine has now moved into extra dry time, which means that it's technically reached the point where the machine thinks that the product is completely freeze dried now and ready to come out. But I know from experience that the machine is almost never right about that. I've learned the hard way in the beginning that if you go by when the machine says it's done and you package up your stuff, it's likely to soften up later because all the moisture wasn't truly removed. So one way around that is there's a setting in the machine where you can set it by default to run up like between, well, however many hours you want, up to 24 hours of extra dry time at the end of each cycle, which is, I have it set to always run 24 extra hours, and right now it's it's counting down from that right now, and I can always increase the amount of time on the machine while it's running. But what I'm going to do, one of the best ways to figure out if your product is actually dry, is to take out the trays and weigh them one by one in grams. So you're going to note the weight of each tray in grams, and then you're going to put them back in the machine and set it for 2 more hours of dry time. And then after that 2 hours, it can be more than 2 hours, but at least 2 hours need to go by. You're going to take the trays out again, and you're going to weigh them again, and you're going to see if the weight has changed. If it has gone down by even 1 gram from the last time you measured, that means your product wasn't dry all the way, and it may still not be dry all the way. So you're going to repeat that weighing process until you take your trays out and the weight remains exactly the same as the previous check. That means it's no longer losing weight, and therefore it's no longer evaporating water, and then you can usually trust that your product is really truly dry and ready to be packaged up. So I'm going to go ahead and start that now. Alright, so it is Tuesday. The pumpkin has been in the freeze dryer since I think it was Saturday. It's definitely dry now.
I've done the weight check a couple more times and it's definitely leveled off and it is ready to be packaged up. When you package up your freeze-dried stuff, you have to move as quickly as you reasonably can, because the longer your food is exposed to the air, the longer the longer it's exposed to the air, the more time, the more chance it has to absorb any moisture that's in the air. And if you live in a humid place, that's a lot more likely to happen. So I always make sure I have everything I'm going to need before I get the food out of the freeze dryer. And often I will only bring out 1 or 2 trays at a time so that the rest can just stay in the freeze dryer closed up and continuing to dry. What I've got here today, I've got my sealer for the Mylar bags. I've got, well first, what I'm going to do is take the pumpkin off the trays and put it temporarily into this Ziploc bag and then kind of crush it up within the bag. And then because I have so much of it and I have two different types of pumpkin on 2 different trays, and I just really want to mix it all together before I package it up. That way I have like the denser pumpkin mixed with the one that was more watery, so it's just going to be a cohesive pumpkin mixture. So I think that I'm going to get it off the trays into the bag, crush it up, dump it in here, and keep doing that until I have the full amount in here, crush it up more if I need to, and then I'm going to transfer some of it to this jar. I put anything I'm going to be using in the reasonably short term in jars with the desiccant pack. These will just soak up any extra moisture. And then whatever I'm storing for longer term storage, or what doesn't fit in the jar, I put in the Mylar bags. These are, I think these are gallon size. And when you store in Mylar bags, you don't use a desiccant, instead you use oxygen absorbers. And you don't need to vacuum seal these. That's kind of what the point of the oxygen absorbers are. Even though they won't suck all the air out, they will get all the oxygen out. And then after that's all packed up, then you seal the bags and they're good to go for up to 25 years. So, all right. Okay, so I think this tray was the one that was all Cinderella pumpkin, which was the reddish orange one, and it was a lot more watery than the gray colored one. So I'm gonna get a spatula to help get it off. Most things won't actually stick. I'm gonna just get this other one so you see what I'm working on. Usually you just gotta get it, there we go. Oh, I did use parchment on this one, but it isn't always necessary. So there we go. We got some pumpkin styrofoam, very light. And all I'm gonna do is just break it into chunks and load it up into the bag. And close it up. And just kind of smash it up. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's pretty easy to smash it up too. And you could use a blender for this. I think it's kind of overkill and not really necessary for most things. And I'm going to dump it in here. And I'm just going to repeat that with all the trays. And then mix it all. You know what it looks like? It looks like Kraft mac and cheese powder. Just weird. And this is, I think this one is the one that was like 100% that more dense pumpkin. I'm just curious what the difference will be. It's just still a piece of foam, basically. Okay, that's good enough. So first I'll do the jar. And for that I'm gonna put, this is a half-gallon jar. I'm gonna put 1 desiccant on the bottom, and then I'll put 1 maybe halfway through, and then 1 on the top. It might be overkill, but I just like to, you know, it's not gonna do any harm to have too many desiccants. Yeah, just do 2 here. Alright, now I have a lid ready. I'm going to get back the vacuum sealer. I'm just going to wipe the lid with a dry paper towel. Don't want to use anything wet because that would add moisture to your puree or your pumpkin powder. So normally you're not supposed to reuse canning lids for canning, but you can reuse them for vacuum sealing. So I always keep these around as long as they're in decent shape for this. And then here is my sealer. Just let it go for a few minutes. I'll just take this off. It seals good. And what I'll do is make a label for this so I know it is pumpkin powder and not Kraft mac and cheese powder. And put that away. And now I have plenty left, so I'm going to store the rest for backup. So usually when I freeze dry things, I like to have, especially if it's ingredients like this pumpkin stuff, I like to have a jar set aside for use in the kitchen, and then anything extra I package in these because they last a lot longer. The food lasts a lot longer in the Mylar bags than it does in the jars. So I can always open these up when I run out of the jar and pour it into a jar and continue using it. So pumpkin 20, 23. Just open up the bag. Probably gonna need 2 bags, so let's start with 1. I need, it's gonna be messy. I'm gonna use a funnel for this too. They actually all fit in here. Let's see. Oops. Maybe. There we go. It did fit. Alright, so now all I need is oxygen absorbers, and I like to go overboard on those too, just to be safe. This is a big bag of lots of stuff, so I think I'll put 2 or 3 of these in there. These ones I like because they are individually wrapped. Usually when you buy oxygen absorbers, they'll have like 5 or 10 in one packet, and as soon as you open them, they start sucking oxygen, and if they're out too long, that's part of why you need to move quickly. If they're out too long, then you won't be able to use them anymore. So I like that these are just wrapped one by one, and I don't have to worry about opening a pack of 5 when I only actually need 1, and then having to like reseal that and hope for the best. So I'm gonna put 3 of these in here. Out of the wrapper. Put it right on top. Look at the hole in my glove. Okay, I don't really need them anymore, anything. Okay, now I'm going to get paper towel again and just wipe the inside in case there's any dust that might get in the way that might get in the way of sealing the bag. And then these have a Ziploc, so I Ziploc it first. You can squish the air out if you want. It doesn't really, you don't really need to, but okay, so it's good and sealed. Make sure it's nice and flat. And there's no dust on the outside either. And then you just put it on the sealer. You can actually use, my freeze dryer came with one of these, and then I ended up throwing out and buying a different brand online because my sealer that came with my freeze dryer did not work at all. I ruined many bags before I discovered that the seals were not actually sealed. So be careful of that. You can also use a hair straightening iron to seal these bags. But you cannot use a freeze dryer. I'm sorry, you cannot use a food saver to seal these bags. But there are certain vacuum pack machines that you can use Mylar bags with, but I don't have one of those, so. So I usually just seal it 3 times, and it's good to go in long-term storage. Probably won't need, I don't even use pumpkin that much, so I probably won't need to do pumpkin again for years at this rate. Welcome back. I have decided, it is now Thursday by the way, I've decided to go ahead and make, instead of pumpkin bread, I'm going to make marbled pumpkin cheesecake bars with ginger snap crust. I made these once, like almost 20 years ago, and I know they were good. I don't know why I haven't made them since, but this is the one. So first of all, I need to make crust. So actually, let me get my ingredients. I have the crust will be crushed ginger snaps, a mix of crushed ginger snaps and graham crackers, cookies. I need my brown sugar. I need regular sugar. Flour. Vanilla. Salt, no salt. Interesting. Alright, and then my spices. I need cinnamon, of course. Fresh ground nutmeg. Nutmeg. And cloves, ground cloves. And that is it for spices. Okay, so for the crust, we'll get my blender out. So it says I need 2 cups of finely crushed ginger snaps. I used to do just all ginger snaps for this kind of crust, but sometimes it can be too hard. So I've started, since then, I've started kind of doing a blend of graham crackers and ginger snaps. And that turns out much better. I'm gonna crush them up a little first. And I can't say how many cookies or crackers. I just know that in the end I need 2 cups of the mix. Throw in a bunch. the right amount. Okay. So I'm gonna measure these just to be sure it's 2 cups. Whoa. Yikes. 1. Close enough. Whoops. As I make a giant mess. There are 2 cups of crumbs. Now we need a 1/4 cup of butter melted, which I've already melted and set aside. And I was going to add some cinnamon and a little bit of brown sugar. So here's my brown sugar. Cinnamon. 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. 1/2 teaspoon. Okay, so I'm going to mix my dry ingredients up, the sugar and the cinnamon and the cookie cracker crumbs. Mix that all up before I add the butter. And you can also add, if you want, a 1/4 cup of finely chopped pecans to the crust, which I've done, but I didn't have any pecans this time, so I'm just going to go with no nuts. So it should look like coarse sand once it's mixed. And you want it to kind of hold together, so I'm just going to grab some. You squeeze it together and it kind of holds together a little bit like you're building a sandcastle. See, that's good. Set that aside. Okay, so now we need to put this in the pan and then bake it. So I need parchment. Big enough piece. I want it to hang over the sides of the pan, so it's going to cover the sides and the bottom. Right. This is a trick I learned that helps you when you need to conform your parchment to a pan like this. Crinkling it up first actually makes it a lot more cooperative. Flatten it back out. And then the other thing I'm going to do is spray this pan just with some cooking spray before I put the paper in, and that will help the paper stay put also. Alright, there we go. Now we'll just dump the crumb mixture in the pan. And I'm just going to spread it out evenly and press it into the corners. And then we are going to bake this for 10 to 15 minutes. These are metal. I put them in the oven all the time in situations like this. It works pretty well. Alright, good enough. Now I'm going to put it in the oven. Going to bake at 325 for 12 to 15 minutes. Computer, set a timer for 12 minutes. 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Alright, so let's see what's next. Blend the cookies. Now we're going to make the pumpkin batter. And to do the pumpkin batter, first we have to rehydrate the freeze-dried pumpkin puree. Now I don't have any exact measurements for how much water to how much pumpkin powder. It's kind of, you gotta add water slowly and just kind of aim for the texture that you're looking for. And in this case, we're looking for a texture similar to canned pumpkin puree. So let's see, in the end, I'm going to need 1/2 cup of canned pumpkin, or the equivalent of. So Let me get a measuring cup. Right. So I'm going to start with, I don't know, maybe half a cup of around half a cup of, or even a cup maybe. This is full of air, so I know I'm going to start out with more than I think I need. Let's start with a cup. I'm going to use filtered water. That's kind of important when you're rehydrating something you freeze-dried. Starting with good quality water really makes a difference. You don't want to add, like, if you have yucky tap water, you don't really want to use that because it's maybe not going to taste that great. So I'm using filtered water from the fridge. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water, stir it up, and see what it looks like. Definitely going to need more water, I can tell already. And the good thing is, if I happen to add too much water by accident and it ends up too thin, I can just add more pumpkin powder until I get the right balance. This is looking pretty good already. It rehydrates really quickly. Pretty much instantly. Smells like pumpkin. Alright, let's see if we have. I have more than half, so I think this is good. This is the texture. Sticks to the spoon. I think that's about right. Now I want to make sure to get half a cup of it. I mean, I could use this liquid measuring cup, but nah, I'm gonna go for this. Alright, there we go. Pumpkin in the bowl. Need 1 tablespoon of flour. About a half teaspoon of cinnamon. And a 1/4 teaspoon of fresh ground nutmeg. I've had this nutmeg, I swear, like 20 years. But I figure since it's whole, it lasts longer. And I don't really measure it either. I just kind of decide that that looks like a 1/4 teaspoon. Alright, now I'm just going to mix this together. Probably didn't need such a big bowl. Actually, I do think I need a bigger bowl later in the later steps. So this smells really good already. Alright, we got like a spiced pumpkin paste now. Let's set that aside. Now we are going to make the cream cheese batter. Beat the cream cheese, which I need 3 boxes, 3 8-ounce boxes. These are 8-ounce, right? Yes. 3 8-ounce boxes softened. I already softened them. So I'm going to beat the cream cheese until smooth. Then I'm going to add sugar and vanilla and beat until combined, and then eggs. 3 eggs. Let's just start with cream cheese. Let me just make sure I'm actually filming. Yes, I am. Thank goodness. Okay, let's see how many more kitchen items I can get dirty. We got about 1.5 minutes left on the crust in the oven. All right, so I'm gonna put this here. then I need to get 3 eggs out. Computer, stop. Alright. Alexa says that the crust is done. That out. There we go. I'll just let that cool slightly. Sugar, how much sugar? 1 cup sugar. This is granulated sugar. Alright, put this in. Mix that up a little. And I need vanilla. 1.5 teaspoons. Okay. Close enough. It's down a little. Oops. Alright, so next up is 3 eggs. Only, I think 3 of my chickens are laying eggs right now because most of them are molting. So mostly I get tiny blue eggs from my younger Easter eggers, and then the brown eggs, and I don't even know which chicken gives me those eggs. I'm gonna go with, I don't know, 2 big ones and 1 medium. That should work. Wash these up. This one only had water in it. Beat these in, put these in a cup and then beat them up before I add them to the cheesecake mix. Ooh, let's show. Alright. Add eggs 1 at a time, huh? Well, okay, I'll add 1/3 of this mix at a time then. One thing I've learned from making regular cheesecake is you don't want to overmix once the eggs are in there. That can impact the texture. Just do 1/3 at a time. More than 1/3, but whatever. Good. I'm going to mix the rest in by hand. Alright, here's where we're at. That's the... Okay. So now the recipe says I am to mix 1/3 of that cheesecake batter, or cream cheese batter, into the pumpkin mixture from 4. Okay, so I'm gonna measure out about 1.5 cups, it says. I'm gonna do it this way. I want to do it. I'm just gonna do it this way. It looks like 1.5 cups. And then we've got this. Mix this together. Make sure there are no lumps. This is not the best gadget for mixing. Switch the whisk. Dishwasher. When I cook, I am notorious for using too many bowls, too many spoons, too many measuring cups. Sorry. Step is to pour the plain cheesecake batter into our pan. Pour it around to get it spread evenly. Okay. So then next, we are going to place large spoonfuls of the pumpkin batter randomly over the cream cheese batter, and then use the tip of the knife to swirl it into like a marble pattern. Maybe blobs. Alright. We have our blobs. I'm just gonna swirl it around. See what it looks like. Alright, into the oven it goes for 25 to 30 minutes, just until it's set. Computer, set a timer for 25 minutes.
25 minutes, starting now.
Alright, once it comes out, I will cool completely on a wire rack, and then cover and chill for 4 to 24 hours before lifting out of the pan and cutting into squares. That's why you put the parchment in, so you can just lift the whole thing out. It's a lot easier to cut that way. Store any remaining bars in the fridge. So I guess I will be back later after I clean up this giant mess. And there it is, right out of the oven. So now I have to cool completely and then chill for at least 4 hours.
Where is it?
In the refrigerator. Okay, so it's the next day. The cheesecake bars have been chilling in the refrigerator since yesterday, and now we are ready. Lucas is here to help me taste test. Cut them up. You like cheesecake?
I will say
Here they are. I'm going to attempt to pull them straight out of this. There we go. That's why you use parchment. Oops. Alright, should I cut them with a knife or a pizza cutter?
Nice. Which one's easier? I feel like a pizza cutter just wouldn't make any sense. It's not pizza.
Yeah, sometimes it works better though. Well, there's a little bit of water from the condensation from being covered in the fridge, so I'm just gonna pat that off first. Alrighty. Let's see. Do you want to be the first taster?
Yes.
Let's see how they look on the inside first. Oops. Nice and marbly.
How long did it take to make this?
Days. It took all week because first, well, actually, it took since June. Do you remember when we planted the pumpkin seeds
Yeah.
way out there, and then we had to wait for them to grow, and then I finally got to pick them, and then they sat on the porch for a while, and then this past Friday, a week ago, I roasted them, and then I pureed them in a blender, and then I put them in the freeze dryer for a few days. And then I took them back out and I crushed them up into a powder.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put water in the powder to make pumpkin puree again. And then I made this recipe. So it only took months. So here, go ahead and taste it. Tell me what you think.
This is how
What do you think? I know you like pumpkin pie. I can't remember if you like cheesecake though.
I do not like cheesecake, but I like pumpkin pie.
Okay. So you like the pumpkin part then? Or maybe not at all?
This entire thing is good.
Oh, good. I thought you were saying you didn't like it. Well, now I'm going to try. I'm going to get a fork. I haven't had these in 20 years when I made them. One other time. Yummy. All right. Tastes like real pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well.
There's still any pumpkins out there?
No, they're all picked. Well, the giant one is still on the porch, but I'm not gonna cook that one. It's not the right time for eating. That one's really for just a decoration. So you like them enough that I should make them again sometime?
Yes, it's
Good.
for Thanksgiving.
For Thanksgiving. Yeah, maybe. I'll think about it. Or maybe I have an actual pumpkin cheesecake that's all mixed together. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching this big project that took me all week plus months. And I hope you try this recipe. And if you do, please leave a comment and let me know what you think. Happy Thanksgiving.